Hey guys, it's Shane here from Tank Hunter Miniatures, and today I want to go over the Vindicator and just what makes it so good. Now this is sort of on the same lines as my Tau railgun video. Was it too powerful for its own good? This is sort of the opposite of that. I think the Vindicator is too good not to bring, and I'll go over that. So I was going through my list for Chaos Space Marines, what I wanted to bring for the old tank army there, and I was planning to bring the Predator to be my anti-large, as well as the Land Raider. But then I realized I had enough points, I could swap it for a Vindicator. And I was tossing up whether the Vindicator or the Predator Annihilator was the better option. And I just couldn't give myself justification to bring the Predator over the Vindicator. So let's start by looking at a Vindicator's stats. It is movement 9, so it's a little slower than the other tanks, but not by much. It's 11 toughness, making it one of the most toughest tanks in the game. Short only to like a Land Raider, the Rogel Dawn, stuff like that. So it's still top tier. It also has its 2-up armor save, which isn't too hard to get. Like a Lehman Russ has a 2-up armor save, but for Space Marine tanks, 2-up is a bit hard to get. So this is great. As well as that, it does only have the 11 wounds, but it's fairly cheap at 175. So it's still very well priced for its cost. And of course, its most important ability, the Siege Shield. So it can just shoot into combat without any restrictions. So you can run this guy straight up the board and it's not going to matter. Now the Demolisher Cannon, again, one of the most powerful weapons in the game. Now it hits on 3s, but it's so easy to get rerolls to hit. It's so easy to get +1 to hit, thanks to a Tech Marine and other stuff. So you're pretty much always hitting. It's so many attacks. It's at least 4 attacks, at most 9, and that's it without even taking blast into account. Strength 14, that overrides, the toughness of any tank in the game. The highest toughness is about 13. So you're always going to be wounding on at least a 3, and it's AP 3, so that's great. That's good armor penetration, and you can use strats, you can use other stuff to increase that, and D6 damage, which is a little swing. Like, it's not like a las cannon with this +1 damage, but overall with that many attacks, it's going to even out that you are doing so much damage reliably to a large target or to a small target, because again, like I said, it has blast, so this is good against anything big. It's anti-large as well as it's anti-horde, anti-infantry. So there isn't really something this is bad against. Like, this is just universally good against everything. Its only real downside is its range, which is 24. Now, if you watched my last video talking about the issue I got to in shooting in the tournament with line of sight blocking and all that stuff, so you're not really going to run into an issue now where having long range is that much of a benefit. 24 inches is generally long range in most games. If you're doing sideways deployment, then it can take a while to get into engagement. If you're doing just the long edge against long edge, you're pretty much in shooting range after the first turn. You've just got to find a good angle to get in there. So having the longer range isn't that much an advantage. And on top of that, there's a lot of ways you can make this guy have assault rules. You can either take it as a faction that gives assault, or for Space Marines, you can take the Tech Marine that has the advancement that lets him give a bubble, 6-inch bubble of assault. So yeah, this guy's only 9-inch movement, but you can be advancing each turn and still be firing just as effectively. So there isn't a downside I can see to this guy. Now, if we have a look at the Predator, yeah, the Predator is 45 points cheaper. Definitely is good. Like the Annihilator rule, that's good. You're doing really good damage, and 48 inches, so it's got great range. But with the 2 las cannons and the Predator las cannon, that's only 3 hits. So you've got 3 shots to deal this big damage, whilst again with the Demolisher Cannon, you've got at least 4. You're more reliably going to be hitting and wounding with the Vindicator over the Annihilator. And of course the Vindicator is going to be able to hold up to more damage, because it's got a 2-up save, and you can Armor of Contempt it. Like, every Space Marine detachment has Armor of Contempt, and most of the ones for Chaos have it. They just have a few that's a little different. They have the Feel No Pain one for the Iron Warriors, so it's still really defensible. And especially, yeah, you bring a Vindicator for Iron Warriors, it's toughness 11, And yeah, -1 to wound from las cannons. They're staying around. It's going to be hard to remove a Vindicator for Iron Warriors. So when we look at the Destructor Predator, of course it gets the extra armor penetration against infantry. That's really handy because everything's automatically -1. So having the -2 on even your heavy bolters, that's going to clear out a horde pretty good. But it's only going to be 6 Predator autocannon shots within 24. And yeah, you're reliably going to be wounding unless it's got an ability, but it's not a huge amount. Like it doesn't have blast. It's only got rapid fire, so it can't really clear out as much as a blast weapon can. And the heavy bolter is definitely going to do some work. If you can get some sustained hits off, that's going to be great. So I'm not saying it's a bad weapon, it's really good. But when it comes to, versatility, anything higher than toughness 9 is going to be really hard to do damage against, especially they're going to be pretty high armored, so they're likely going to have a 3-up save, so it's going to be hard to wound anything that isn't infantry. So that's why the Vindicator is so good. It's anti-everything. So it's sort of like the meme of Invincible, when it's like, yeah, a Predator, Annihilator, and Destructor. Look what they have to do to mimic the Vindicator power. So you can see it that way. So yeah, it was hard for me to justify bringing the Predator over the Vindicator in this case. So now, if you're looking at stuff that isn't tanks, let's have a look at something that costs very similar. So let's start with looking at Space Marines. So if you've got a squad of 6 Eradicators, that's about the same price, a little bit more than a Vindicator. So in this case, yeah, you have more OC control, but unless you've got these guys in an Impulsor, they've only got 5-inch movement. They're not going to be moving around all too much, and they're going to be picked off a lot easier because they've got a 6-up toughness. That's pretty good, but only a 3-up save. So in cover, I guess that's pretty good, and they can pretty accurately hit and wound a vehicle. Like these are, your anti-vehicle Marines. But of course, they're only really doing a lot of damage when they're within 9 inches. So they've only got a movement 5, and they have to hit you within 9 inches to get the melter rule off. And of course, they have heavy, so they shoot a lot more accurate if they stand still. But if you stand still, how are you going to catch up to your opponent? So it's a tricky one. Like, they're definitely good. Like, Gravis Armor Marines are cool, but it's 200 points for the squad that, a tank can pretty quickly get out of the way of. Now, if it gets in range, yeah, the tank is screwed. That's the thing, you have to Oath of Moment. So you've got a Land Raider, Oath of Moment it, get these guys up. It's a lot of investment to just take out one model. The Vindicator can look at anything and just say, I'm removing that from the table pretty reliably. So yeah, Eradicators are a big investment, and yeah, they have the florbacks from any sort of infantry unit for the Marines. And of course, if you get them in close combat, it's only okay. It's like, it's 3 attacks each, and so you got 3 models. Yeah, that's 9 attacks, but no AP. So you can wade your way through combat, but if you get tied up by a massive something, they're going to be stuck there. They can't get out of that easily. Whilst Vindicator, it can just shoot through them without a penalty. It can shoot into them without a penalty. It's not going to care. So Eradicator squad, great vehicle assassins, but a Vindicator is going to do the job quite a bit more reliably. So then for the Chaos side, we're looking at the Obliterators. Now, Obliterators are fantastic, but you're only getting 2 models for the same price of the Vindicator. Now, they're a bit more tougher, but they are slower. They're only 4 inches. They got the 2-up armor save, that's cool, 5-up invuln. So, they're great. They can shoot with indirect with their ability. Of course, they can take mortal wounds from that. But again, their weapons are kind of swing, because it's always varied attack numbers. So using the focused malice, again, you've got to be within 12 to get the melter off, and at least it's not swingy with its damage. Its damage is straight up what it is, which is great, but it isn't a lot of shots, and it's very varied, the shots, so it's kind of risky to bring these. So they are definitely, strong. They can definitely hold their own, but again, it comes in the fact of, can I get there before it gets to me? Because the Vindicator, once the Obliterator's dead, the Vindicator's doing that. It's not going to care. you know, you come to get it, but it can just move away and just shoot you. Yeah, it's got about the same range. But if you want that melter to really be doing something, you've got to be within that short range. So again, Vindicator is definitely going to do more than the Obliterators can. And yeah, 2 Obliterators, that's only 1 OC higher than a Vindicator. So you're only just OCing something off an objective. So when we look at this, it's hard to justify unless you really like the models. If you like the models, then it doesn't matter what you bring, just bring those. But the Vindicator is generally going to do a better job than most of these guys. So it's a very interesting way to see it. I think we're going to see that more with these new rules that come in. I think infantry are going to be doing more to get points, but just in sheer damage output, yeah, you're just going to be doing better with the Vindicator. The last point I wanted to make was looking at the Imperial Guards version, the Leman Russ Demolisher, which is actually more expensive, but it's got more weapons loadout. You know, you can strap some heavy bolters, a las cannon to this guy, so that makes sense. Very similar in stats. It's actually faster, I realized. Leman Russ still has 10 movement, and yeah, it's got more hit points, and it's got the same armor save, lower leadership. But the other thing is, even though they have the same ability, Line Breaker, as opposed to Siege Shield, they're only hitting on 4s, and you can buff that to a 3 if you give it an order. But of course that's very expensive to bring a unit that can give orders to a Demolisher. So it's interesting to see the difference there, because there's only like 2 strats that can affect a Demolisher, and they're not that great, whilst a Vindicator for Chaos Space Marines and Space Marines, so many strats will affect it. And yes, they have codexes, but even before, they still had universal strats that could affect vehicles, whilst, you know, Leman Russ is sort of, they're on their own. So it's just really funny to see that, how much more a Vindicator can be buffed as opposed to a Leman Russ. And if you have a Tech Marine for Vindicators, yes, it'll give it the +1 to hit. The Tech Priest for the Imperial Guard, it'll only give it the invuln save, which generally isn't needed that much, because a 2-up save is gonna protect it enough. Like, if you got this guy within cover, AP3 goes to AP2, 4-up invuln anyway. So it's not that valuable to have that invulnerable save, but having the +1 to hit is so valuable. So I just wanted to show that even the Imperial Guard, which is all about its tanks, their version can't live up to the Vindicator nearly as well. So that's pretty funny. So yeah, that's the breakdown of what makes the Vindicator pretty much better than any other tank in the game right now. If you feel differently, please let me know. I want to hear your reasons for why you see that's not the case, but definitely leave a comment and like. I'd really love to hear from you guys, and it really helps the channel. I'll definitely have some more stuff coming out soon, but until then, I'll see you soon. Bye.